Hello there my Jedi and Sith friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So today we're going to change pace just a little bit and dive into some Star Wars lore. So I just got my hands on the latest editions of Secrets of the Sith and Secrets of the Jedi. Both books were respectively first published in 2021 and 2019. But this month, May 2026, Lucasfilm has given us updated versions of both. And as you can imagine, because so many new projects have dropped in the last few years, they contain a lot of new canon information. So today we're going to begin with Secrets of the Sith, and this is written from the perspective of Palpatine. And just in case you didn't read the first iteration of this book, it goes through key moments of dark side history. A lot of the history he knows is from before his time, and this book confirms in canon, Palpatine was aware of Qimir, the Stranger, and the Anasair twins. It's honestly a bit of a strange one because, as we know, Leslie Headland's own words don't really match some of the stuff introduced in the show, and there has been a lot of confusion as to whether or not Qimir is a true Sith. The show itself, before it was cancelled, left it very ambiguous. At the time, we assumed that Plagueis was the Master, Qimir the Apprentice, because he does recite the Sith Code, and Osha, the new Acolyte. Very similar to the way that later in the timeline, Palpatine takes on Maul, while he's still Plagueis' apprentice. But then the Acolyte visual guide came along, and implied that Qimir might have been a Sith imposter. And at the time we theorized that maybe the reason Plagueis took interest in him is because he might have sensed him in the Force, or because he was fascinated by midichlorians and the ability to create life. He was there because of Osha, intrigued by the creation of the twins. And then of course, Leslie Headland confirmed that Qimir was the first Knight of Ren, so I reckon had the show not been cancelled, Qimir would have gone down his own dark side path. But he wasn't a true Sith, and as a result, he might have clashed with Darth Plagueis. But what did Palpatine know about him, and what does this book say? Prepare yourselves to tap into the dark side of the Force, my friends. Let's dive in. Feeble minds have struggled to comprehend the Force's vast potential. For millennia, studying its two aspects, the light side and the dark, the weak sought to limit themselves to the light. But it must be said, the brightest of lights cast the darkest shadows. The darkness must be allowed to bleed through, for only those who choose to embrace the dark side are able to truly exploit the boundless potential of the Force. Darth Sidious goes on to write, "The Sith briefly made their presence known near the end of an era the Jedi arrogantly referred to as the High Republic. But it would be another century before I would finally lead our order out of the shadows again. As a dark apprentice, I sensed the Republic was in disarray. Its delegates held no interest in the common good. They would be easy targets for my influence. Serving as a senator, I rose through their ranks. By that point, my master Darth Plagueis had served his purpose, so I struck him down, claiming my place as the one true master of the Sith. Under my rule, the Sith would return to its rightful glory. The Sith would finally get their revenge." Now before we come back to Qimir, I just want to make the small but significant remark that a lot of this book is in line with the expanded universe. Notably that in practice, neither Plagueis nor Palpatine really cared too much about the rule of two. Instead, in their own ways, they believed in the arrogant philosophy of the rule of one. Plagueis wanted immortality, and Palpatine, ultimate power. Neither Sith ever believed they would be superseded by their apprentices. And in this new book, Palpatine refers to the rule of two as, quote, "a magnificently vicious cycle." For Sidious, it's rather paradoxical. He maintained the veneer and facade of the rule of two, but never intended to give up his power. Not for Maul, not for Tyrannus, and certainly not for Vader. Palpatine wanted to rule the galaxy for all time. But let's get back to the Acolyte. Before I became the final apprentice of Darth Plagueis, there was another attempted thread of Sith lineage, a former Padawan of the Jedi Master Vernestra Rwoh in the waning days of the High Republic. This stranger had embraced the dark side. Under a number of false identities, including that of the masked warrior simply known as the Stranger, he sowed discord among the Jedi, as he sought to take on a pupil of his own. And because Darth Sidious wasn't born yet, Plagueis must have told him all about the Stranger. And then, he talks about the twins. The Stranger found an Acolyte in a young girl named Mayho Anasair, the child of powerful Force witches of Brendok. It was said that May and her twin sister Varosha were born from the Force itself. Osha, who had foolishly devoted herself to the light, wisely gave in to the dark side and took her sister's place as the Stranger's apprentice. Now, a couple of things to note. Because Palpatine says Qimir came from a separate thread of Sith lineage, it makes me think this is confirmation he was not a genuine Bainite Sith. He was not Plagueis' apprentice. And finally, there is one other place the Stranger is mentioned, and Palpatine says this: "I've never felt the need to hide my face, even after my disfigurement. But some Dark Lords of the Sith have donned helmets, designed to strike fear into the hearts of those who would dare oppose them. A Sith mask is often considered a great prize by those who worship the dark side. These fearsome facades ensure they will never be forgotten." As for the Stranger, the sinister grimace etched into his helmet was indeed a chilling sight to behold. However, this helmet did far more than hide the Stranger's identity. It was forged from cortosis, a metal capable of disrupting lightsabers upon contact. The helmet was able to dampen the senses of its wearer, allowing them to attune more fully with the dark side during combat and prevent telepathic intrusion by meddlesome Jedi. So to me it sounds like maybe Palpatine has some reverence for the Stranger. He respects what he was trying to do, the search for apprentices, the cortosis helmet, but because Qimir's story was never fully told, we'll probably never know how or when he dies. The author of this book is clearly just going off what we know from the first season, and they don't let them fill in the gaps. So this really is all we have to go off. And the impression I get is that the book can't decide what kind of dark side Force user Qimir was. Because on the one hand, Sidious acknowledges that Qimir was the first quote-unquote Sith to reveal themselves to the Jedi during the High Republic, 100 years before the full reveal in The Phantom Menace. But this is then contradicted by the line about Qimir being of a different branch of Sith lineage. And keep in mind, the Acolyte was originally set to be 3 seasons. And if that original plan had ever come about, I think we would eventually have seen a young Palpatine. It's way too early for him to be around yet in the first season, but I do believe Leslie Headland had always intended for a young Palpatine to finish the show. I genuinely believe the Acolyte was going to finish with Plagueis and a young Palpatine. And like I said, I think all the knowledge Palpatine had about the twins and the Stranger comes from Plagueis. So those are pretty much all the references to the Acolyte. Just thought it might be fun to break down some of these tidbits. If you like this, I probably will also do some videos on Secrets of the Jedi. What do you guys make of today's reveals? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you always.